Hello everybody, welcome to this video about the update on Altergeists. The meta's changed a little bit. I've actually tried to make this video a few times over Christmas and the New Year's, but I always felt like, because we got the ban list change from Personal Spoofing went from 1 to 2, and that was obviously really big news for Altergeists, but the deck didn't change that much, it just got a lot more consistent, of course. And I was really waiting for the meta change, the meta game to change a bit more, because that would really change how we play and what we have to consider and things like that. So what I've got here today is I'm going to go through some replays of my COG rank up. Unfortunately, I didn't actually save the replays until one of them had fallen off my my most recent games. So I've only got 4 of the 5, like the most recent 4 COG rank up matches. But there was a good spread, I think, of upcoming threats in the meta. And things that Altergeists have to consider nowadays. I guess before we go into that, I'll show you the deck that I've been running to do that. It's really similar to things I've shown in the past. So I've still got the Fifth-Lag lock with these two and Fifth-Lag. I'd like to talk about that in a bit. And of course, instead of running 1, I'm running 2 Personal Spoofings, and that has unlocked a limit 1, and I believe the best limit 1 for Altergeist is 1 for 1. Why do I think 1 for 1 is the best limit 1 for Altergeist? Well, this opinion, I'll be honest, is actually getting a little bit outdated as more cards are being released into Duel Links. But at the time I had the opinion, it was that Altergeists don't care about what their back row actually does, they just care that they get multi-faker access. I've said this many times. If you've watched all my Altergeist videos before, then you know exactly where this is going, but we just care about multi-faker activating and getting the rest of our combo going. We don't really care what the trap does so long as it's chainable, and this is the limit 1 which gets us to multi-faker, because it gets us to Melee Seek, which then gets us to multi-faker. Something else that's really awesome that you can do with 1 for 1, and put it in my mind as contention to play over Personal Spoofing when Personal Spoofing was only limit 1, was that you can go a turn 1 Hextia with a 1 for 1, depending on the rest of your hand, because you still get the normal summon. So you get to special summon a Melee Seek. If you still got a monster in your hand, you can normal summon that, say a Marionetta for example. And then you get to set a trap, you get to link these two away to a Hextia, you get a search of Melee Seek, so you can get your multi-faker access. If you are really lucky, then the thing that you discarded for 1 for 1 could have been multi-faker, and then before you link away into Hextia, you can use your Marionetta to send either it or Melee Seek to the graveyard, revive the multi-faker, and then get another search of multi-faker, such as Silkwooders. Or maybe another Melee Seek, so then when you link into Hextia, it's already pointing to something. And then you get a turn 1 Hextia pointing to something with a trap that Marionetta has found. This very rarely comes up, but what's nice is that because Personal Spoofing is now at 2 instead of 1, we don't have to sacrifice any deck building to have the possibility of it happening. I've also just noticed this deck plays 1 limit 1, 2 limit 2s, 3 limit 3s. That's quite funny. So yeah, we don't have to make any sacrifices within our deck. We already kind of want to play 1 for 1. This, going from 1 Personal Spoofing to 1 for 1 and 2 Personal Spoofing, has given us a +2 consistency cards, which in a 20 card deck, 10% of our cards became more ideal for our turn 1. And that's amazing. Something to talk about with Personal Spoofing. If Personal Spoofing was at 3 and unlimited, so it didn't clash with Melee Seek, would I play 3? I honestly don't know. 2 might be the sweet spot anyway. So being limit 2 kind of doesn't matter, because I haven't actually bothered to check, but I don't think there's anything limit 2 we want to play. And I don't know if we'd even play 3 Personal Spoofing. And why wouldn't we play 3 Personal Spoofing? God, it's so good to get access to your multi-faker. So good. But with only 3 back row slots in Duel Links, it really does clog your back row. Personal Spoofing's effectiveness, you can do cool tricks with it, that you can dodge negates and things like that, but its effectiveness diminishes once you've already get multi-faker access. If you've seen my other videos before, especially in Altergeist Academy, I talk about how multi-faker, you want to activate it from the hand once, maybe twice, and then you're set up and you kind of want it more in your graveyard than your hand. And Personal Spoofing is kind of similar, because its whole purpose is to facilitate multi-faker. And once you've got your resources going, you've activated multi-faker once or twice, you don't need the spoofing so much anymore, apart from, I suppose, to find Concurry. That's the valuable thing. It can keep recycling your Concurry. But yeah, outside of that, I just find it clogging my back row. So I said I'd talk about the fifth leg lock as well, including this. So this also is linked to me talking about why I believe 1-for-1 is the best, in that Altergeists don't care about what the traps do. I never finished that thought, I've just realized. The reason we don't care about what the traps do is the Altergeist engine itself is so much advantage. It takes care of everything that the meta can throw at us. Silkwood bouncing a thing once per turn, our turn and our opponent's turn, as well as the insane resource grind of Altergeist, where we can get multiple spell trap negates thanks to Hextia and reviving back to the zone, and special summoning from the hand to the zone that Hextia is pointing to, as well as bouncing a thing. And reviving our cards is just too much long game for our opponents to keep up with. But nowadays, decks are starting to get to the point where it's not too much for them to keep up with. I think we still have the best grind game out of all decks in the meta, like even something like Shadol's. Like the Altergeist grind game is just ridiculous. But the tempo that we inflict on our opponent, or the tempo loss that we inflict on our opponent, mainly through bouncing with Silkwood, is getting to a point where it's not quite enough. And for that reason, it might now be correct to start moving into non-Altergeist, non-engine, non-consistency traps. Or spells, or effect failures, you know, interruptions, things like that. I'm hesitant to do so. The reason I'm hesitant to do so is I really don't like including generic staples that we kind of just have to draw to even have a chance in the matchup. I want the deck to be robust enough and strong enough that it can, that it doesn't have to rely on just drawing the out. If we look at some of my other decks, I'd like to talk about how this doesn't conflict with some of my other philosophies. Who did I use for Live Twins? Did I delete their deck? I'm not sure. Let's see. I must have deleted my Live Twin deck. Okay. Well, Live Twins, if you know what a Live Twins does, it's a very lean strategy. It has very few in-engine cards within itself, and then the rest of it is all staple cards that are really good at disrupting the opponent. That's different to something like Altergeists. Another example is Rockets. I know I have a Rocket deck, actually. Let me show you one of those. Just so I've got something to point to as I am making my point here. Oh, there's Evil Twins next to... Okay, I do have twins. But Rockets, for example, we've got our Rocket engine. Then we've got something like Cosmic Cyclone, IDP, Needle Sealing. The reason I'm okay with these staples in here is Needle Sealing actually has insane synergy with Rocket, so it's not like it's just a random off staple. It's just really good with the strategy. And we don't need a lot of cards to get going in Rockets. We need usually 2, and there's a lot of combinations which work. And then the rest of the hand can be staples, such as more IDPs. I only own 1 at the moment, or Cosmic Cyclones and things. Whereas in Altergeists, you kinda... Your combos, your opening combos, maybe only 2 cards, but you often just need a critical mass of Altergeists. So or something that you need to open a monster in a trap, for example, depending on what your hand is. If you've got 1/1, you need another monster in your hand. So the ratio of Altergeists, these 10 here, I think is kinda hard to change. I can see people swapping out Malusiks for powerful traps in the limit 3 slot. But apart from that, maybe you could cut 1 Marionetta, but the thing is, if you're cutting, say, a Malusik, and you're cutting a Marionetta, and you're not playing the 5th leg block, you're down to 8 monsters, and that can end up being a bit awkward. Like, what if the monsters that you open are like Silkwood and Marionetta? You know, it's like, or Concrete and Marionetta, or like Concrete and Multifaker, and then you put in like generic cards like Book of Moon, for example. Like, I found that the deck, it definitely can brick, but it's not very bricky. with this setup. Fifth and lag, a lot of decks can play around the fifth and lag lock now. So I actually took it out and then I put it back in, and the reason is because of these two traps just being so inherently chainable. They make your multi-faker a lot more consistent, and since we're playing them anyway, we might as well include the lock. Of course, when I decided to do that, I had fifth lag in my opening hand for the next 5 games. But even so, a fifth lag in the hand is still fine, because if it can be discarded to 1-for-1, if it can be sent back with Personal Spoofing. The other thing is, compared to plain generic traps, these being Altergeist names are really good for Personal Spoofing, they're really good for Silkwoodus as well. And sometimes for manifestation getting back from the graveyard. So I still think it's alright to play the fifth and lag lock as opposed to generic staples. However, I'm not so strongly in the camp as I was that this is 100% the correct thing to do. I wouldn't fault you for playing generically powerful traps, whatever ones are available that aren't on the limit 3, 2 or 1 list. I've seen other people float the idea of playing enemy controller instead of 1-for-1. I really think 1-for-1 is better, but I mean you can steal games with enemy controller for sure. Mostly what's changed is the meta around us. We've got Shadows, we've got Constellas, but those are in my rank up matches, so let's just go up to those and I'll talk about them as we get to them. Favorite replays, here we go. So as I said, we see these legend opponents. I've only got wait, do I have 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, maybe... Oh, 6 even. Okay, well, I might have more than the rank up matches. I might have... I think I only have 4 rank up matches. I maybe have 2 other ones. Ah, I'm rank 3, so this isn't a rank up match. But I checked this one out just before I started recording, and I still think it's valuable to go through. Because my opponent here is playing the new Constellas. And Constella is a strategy which I've only played against it with Altergeists, so I don't have a complete full overview of it yet. But my understanding of Constella is it's kind of like a more consistent but otherwise worse version of Altergeists. And what I mean by that is, it seems to me, without knowing the deck, it seems to me that they can kind of open anything and then get to their combos. I've never seen a Constella deck break. And what is their end board? What are they trying to make? They're trying to make basically a Silkwoodus that can only use its effect twice, but doesn't need another Constella in play, but you needed 2 Constellas to, well, 2 rank 5s to make it in the first place. So it's kind of like taking the same material Silkwoodus needs, it's just condensing it into one monster rather than having it split across 2. I need to talk about this. And it also has a bit of a grind game with its resources. However, the Altergeist grind game is better. We have better end game effects, because end board effects once we're fully set up, because we can get Hextia to negate spell traps rather than this guy who makes the Constellas immune to spell trap effects. And then we can go, like, we just outgrind them basically. They get to play limit 3s though, and that is a big plus for them. They get to play stuff like IDP. As people aren't, they're still not used to playing against Altergeists, they do mistakes like this. So Constellar Omega doesn't affect us at all. In fact, there's only one spell in my entire deck which actually affects my opponent's cards, and that's the Magical Dimension. Everything else only affects my stuff. Oh, I suppose actually part of the fifth and lag lock does. The Altergeist Camouflage, I think that affects my opponent's cards. So this doesn't matter, and this is the same problem Tenyi players had against Altergeist as well. Tenyi is actually decent against Altergeist, but the way Tenyi players were playing the deck, it was really bad against Altergeist if they went second. I'll talk about that more as we get to a Tenyi matchup, which I believe I have in these replays as well. like this hand, this is what I'm talking about, where you just need Altergeist cards. You want monsters, so this 1-for-1, we need a monster in our hand, and having 2 silk allows us to discard the silk. If we didn't draw this 1-for-1, then it's Personal Spoofing, could put back something that's kind of dead, get us our multiplier access, for example, as opposed to if we had, for example, Marionetta and like, I mean, I still want to play all these cards, but I'm trying to think of cutting ratios. Actually, Marionetta might be the thing that I'd cut to go down to 1 Marionetta, right? So if this was like some generically powerful staple, I would have Silkwoodus, Spoofing, Manifestation. And that would actually be fine now I think about it, right? Because you go Spoofing, you set Manifestation, you normal some of the Silkwoodus. The only thing that loses to is if they somehow banish the Silkwoodus. Actually, it would lose to if they destroy the Silkwoodus and destroy the Manifestation. Or destroy the Spoofing. Like, it becomes more vulnerable to MST. Anyway, with this setup... Also, if this was enemy controller, they'd be able to protect themselves from a constant Omega. Anyway, 1-for-1 just means we basically get to do Melee Seek plus Manifestation. Oh, that's another thing about this current meta that's made it harder for Altergeists. Forbidden Chalice is being played more. I think this is because of people being afraid of Winder. I've just noticed a huge uptick in Forbidden Chalice being played, and Forbidden Chalice is really good against Multifaker. So I'm kind of glad that he uses it on this Marionetta right now, and it's not available for Multifaker. So that it has got harder because of Forbidden Chalice, and Forbidden Droplet just got released. I luckily haven't gone against any Evil Twins, Live Twins on my rank up, but that matchup, as I've said before, is a coin flip of who goes first, but Forbidden Droplet isn't doing us any favours. It's just going to make that matchup even harder. And this is usually how Altergeists work. If you're going second, you mostly kind of just ignore what they're doing and set up your own engine. To be honest, I don't know exactly what all of the constellars do individually, but I don't think it's worth trying to choke them. I think, like against most decks, we just want to interrupt their end board rather than them trying to get to it in the first place. So they finally go into their true boss monster, Pleiades. And I don't... Here's the thing about Glinkaribo as well. You want it off the board, you only make it so that you can tribute your Maleseek for some reason. Or rather send Maleseek to the graveyard so you can search for something. So them tucking it back into my deck really doesn't matter. In fact, if I had Concrete in my hand and they attacked, I always tribute the Glinkaribo to send that thing to 0 and then summon the Conquerry anyway. The scariest thing about their deck is the this generic staple back row. Not Crackdown though, but something like IDP. Oh, that's something I haven't talked about. 1-for-1 does make you a lot weaker to IDP, Ice Dragon's Prison. Just in case you're not familiar, Ice Dragon's Prison is going to revive a monster from your opponent's graveyard. So if the opponent uses IDP, it will revive from our graveyard, and then they get to banish a monster from each field without targeting that shares a type. And all of our monsters are spellcasters, so they can... You discard something for 1-for-1, you summon the Meluseek. If they've got IDP, they should use it then, and then they revive whatever you discarded, and then they banish your Meluseek and the thing that you discarded, and it sets you quite far behind. Whereas if you just normal summon Meluseek, they can't do that. But if you're 1-for-1ing Meluseek, maybe you didn't have the option to normal summon it. It's something to bear in mind if you do open 2 Meluseeks and a 1-for-1. Sorry, if you open a Meluseek, a 1-for-1 and some other monster. Because you have that tension where you have the highest ceiling where you can 1-for-1 discard the Meluseek in hand to summon a Meluseek, and then you still get to normal summon the other monster. Like if it's a Marionetta, for example, you still get to search a trap. But if you're going second and your opponent's playing a deck that you know can play staple back row like Ice Dragon's Prison, it might be better to go for the lower ceiling play of just normal summon the Meluseek. Because that makes you not so weak to Ice Dragon's Prism. We don't care so much about the DD Crow. It's annoying, but we don't care so much about it because, like I said in the intro, we care that we activated a trap, not that a trap actually did anything. And then we get to negate the crackdown here.
Here I go. It's my turn. I draw.
I wonder if I do it in this game. I've noticed myself getting a lot more aggressive with transitioning to phase 3. I'm going through Prime Banshee really early. Yes, so I did. So I don't think I've normal sunned this turn. I can't remember, I might have done. But yeah, it's just, I've noticed, so if you're going through Prime Banshee, it's one of the few times you can comfortably get rid of Concurry, because you know you get Concurry back when Prime Banshee disappears. But this is just a whole bunch of maneuvering my resources to end up with everything in a good zone. Altergeist Academy, right? I've got good things to baby, I got Concurry in my hand, and now I can immediately set up the trap. And then I can even do the 5th leg lock now, so they can't target Hextia or Silkwoodas to force me to preemptively do something. Okay, so I think that was a good intro into kind of the new meta as well, but Constellar players are still kind of like the Ultra Tenyi players, where they're making the incorrect play. If he'd have made Pleiades, for example, that could have been a lot harder for me, because Pleiades can counter Personal Spoofing. If you're familiar with the Altergeist Mirror, this comes up a lot. A spoofing is dead if your opponent has a quick play way to remove it from the field. And so you can kind of bait out the quick play, but if I had to rely on spoofing, which luckily I didn't need the effect in that game, but if I had to rely on it to find the multi-faker, and they had to play 80s, they could just bounce the Personal Spoofing in response to me activating it, and then I would just go -1, I wouldn't get to search for the multi-faker. So that's something to bear in mind as well. Alright, so is this one a COG rank cup match? Let's see. I don't think so, considering it's Annika Boom. No, this is probably going from Legend 4 to Legend 5. I didn't pay attention to where I was before. This is kind of what I was talking about. This, oh, Cosmo, this is a, yeah. Okay, so Cosmo Dark Lady is the most threatening thing that Cosmos have against us. And it's really similar to, oh, what's it called? The Tenyi, Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. That's the threat that Tenyi have access to, and other decks that play it. Basically a way to negate Multifaker in the hand. Because what people don't realize about Altergeist, if they're not familiar with it, and I don't blame them, is that the traps don't matter, it's Multifaker that matters, and so monster negates are the thing that shuts down Altergeists, not spell trap negates. And so this is the thing that we have to be careful about. But the matchup as a whole can be kind of tricky, so considering I saved this replay, I presume I saved it for myself because I managed to navigate it. I can look and learn about it later. So we do the classic setup. Oh, so I have an interesting choice of whether I'm going to set both personal spoofings. I'm kind of banking on my opponent, because Cosmo have an in-archetype way to destroy spells traps. I'm banking on my opponent opening the slot for me and destroying one of the personal spoofings. And this is one of the awkward things about playing multiple of this card. If I remember, they get a lot of value out of the field spell this game, but it still can't grind with the value. It doesn't match up to the grind game of Altergeist. Sorry, force him to hit the melee seek. So I can set up my ultimate end game. So what is the end game against Cosmos? There's a few things that you can do to get through the Cosmos, because they can't be targeted. So one, you can hit them directly with melee seek. This isn't super reliable because there is a Cosmo which we can't target, which gains them 1,000 life points in each of their standby phases. So to race with that, you need 3 Meluseek, and if you got 3 Meluseek, they can just hit you because you're not able to negate with a Conqueror or a Fifth Leg or anything like that, because all your monster zones are taken. But Meluseek is one way to do damage to them. Where Meluseek does come in handy is your actual way to finish out the game is Borrowload Dragon. You can also make a Hexia that's quite large if it's pointing to Brian Banshee, but then you let them float their Cosmos. It's an out to actually do damage to them, but you've still got a game on your hands. Borrowload, when you're actually finishing them off, is weak to spell trap removal, so you need to maneuver the game state into such a position you can summon Borrowload safely, and that's where Meluseek comes in, because it hits them and then it starts hitting their back row. So then you pave the way for Borrowload in the future. Altergeist is really good at stalling out the game, and so the idea is you slowly chip away their back row with Meluseek, then you summon Borrowload, and then you win. Maybe not immediately, but at least over time. So it's annoying that Meluseek gets banished here, but it's not the end of the world. Like, Meluseek's purpose there was to destroy back row, and so them using a back row, it's kind of like Meluseek just did its intended purpose of it destroyed quote-unquote a back row. It would actually hurt us if that was our last Meluseek, but luckily it's only our first one that's banished, so we've still got gas in the tank to finish the game later. Right, so this here, oh, this is a version of the list where I'm not playing the Fifth Leg lock. I'm playing these staples instead, so I can see so what's going. So this would have been a Fifth Leg or a Camouflage or an Emulate Elf, one of those 3 in my normal list. So the only thing that mattered here is that I activated a trap. The actual warning point itself, actually I think it does come up, because if I get Silkudus, I can bounce this to their hand. We'll see. Yeah. So the effect actually does matter here. But even if it was just any chainable trap, the point is to activate Multifaker, and like I'd be able to get 15 lag there, for example. And these personal spoofings mean I also have access to Conqueror. Why aren't they? Oh, right. I think they're not negating because they're trying to save for Silkudus, but it's too late now. Because Conqueror forces out the bait, forces out the negate anyway. And then I still haven't used Silkudus' effect. Because of personal spoofing, let me put this away. The other thing to bear in mind with Cosmo is sometimes you can't use Silkudus. If they don't have any back row, and they only have monsters that can't be targeted by your effects, in this case they do because they have this negated one, then you're not even able to activate Silkudus, and that means you can't bounce Conqueror to your hand. So that's something to keep an eye out for as well, is are you even able to activate your Silkudus. Ah, this is getting rid of the last back row. They tried to banish Silk, but instead we tuck it away with personal spoofing. Okay, yeah, they're forced to do that here. Oh, they're actually getting really low. Silkudus can end them with a direct attack. We're just so good at stalling though, that we can stall through all their huge crazy threats. And they surrendered. Okay, so that's how you deal with Cosmo. It's not pretty, it takes a long time, but it's definitely doable. They can also win against you. Sometimes it doesn't quite line up, and they do out-tempo you. Altergeist is notoriously and famously very slow at the beginning of the game, and if you don't get set up quickly enough, they can just steamroll you. But if you do get set up quickly enough, then that happens and you just win the long game essentially. Okay, I think we're on to actual COG matchup. COG rank up matches now. So I should be Legend 5, yes. I can't remember this one. I think this was my second match, because as I say, one of my 5 games fell off before I remembered to save them as replays.
Can't wait to see what tricks you have.
This hand, oh, it's a mirror. Oh, fantastic. This hand is honestly, okay, well, until I got the manifestation, it wasn't that great. I had no trap access, and Altergeists really need a mix of monsters and traps. But with the trap access, it's much better. And also I got the Marionetta access here. Oh no, I did have trap access because I had 1-for-1 to Mediseek. Mediseek makes this search Marionetta. Of course. Ignore me. I do have trap access. So that's another reason 1-for-1 is so good actually, and something I completely forgot to point out is 1-for-1. It's a spell, but it's trap access. It's monster. Well, it's monster access, but you need a monster to discard. But you get your best starter monster, which then goes into Link Rainbow, which finds Marionetta, and Marionetta sets a trap. So it gets you everything that you need. It's honestly not always the best though, because usually your combo needs you to not have a monster in your main monster zone, because you need space to revive something and then multi-faker, the multi-faker special summon something. But it's better than just having a bricked hand completely. Anyway, so they're using staples. They use, well, you know what I mean. They're using generic traps. So they used it to banish. Was that Mediseek? There you go. So yeah, they're setting up their things. Oh yes, they just misplayed because they summoned Link Rainbow that turn, and then they expected Multifaker to work, but it didn't. So that's a shame. So normally I'm happy to just absorb some blows, but obviously I don't want to just get hit by Mediseek. Right. Okay. So what to bounce here was all to do with the zones that I was talking about in Altergeist Academy. So I bounced their Mediseek back to their hand. Bouncing Multifaker is actually sometimes correct as well, because you only need to resolve once or twice. It can actually end up annoying in the hand, but it's worse for them to have Mediseek in their hand. I didn't bounce their Link Rainbow for the same reason I mentioned in earlier game, where as an Altergeist player, you don't actually want Link Rainbow in your extra monster zone. The reason for that is you want Hexter in your extra monster zone, so then you've still got 3 main monster zones to play with. Whereas if you got Link Rainbow pointed to Hexter, it's starting to get a bit cramped with what you're able to do. Also, this is a big mistake in my opinion, is actually summoning the Dino-Miscus, because for the same reason as your main monster zone's getting cramped, look at this, it's just taking up space now, and it's just a useless 1200 attack monster. They even discarded the Multifaker. Like, this is another reason I don't like the Dino-Miscus. When you start running low on, like, when Altergeist needs help is when we're at the start of the game, we don't have a lot of resources in our hand. We don't need help once we've got our grind game going. Once we've got our grind game going, yeah, we can discard basically infinite cards to Dino-Miscuses, but this could have been anything at that point. We're gonna be fine. So if I was to play any generic staple, it would be a generic card which helps us when we're at our most vulnerable, not one that only helps when we're already ahead. These are all just staple cards. But now we get to do actual, I mean it's over, it's clearly over. We get to do actual Altergeist shenanigans and just set up properly. So this is more or less an I suppose and what not to do with Altergeist, and why I'm personally against especially some particular generic traps like Dino-Miscus. Right, so this will be my 3rd rank up game, I think. I should have a win streak down here so we can see. 2. Oh, okay. Huh. Maybe that was my first and this is my second.
Why are you standing in
I mean, this is great. This plus this is our best opening. We don't really care about the rest of the cards in our hand. Okay, this is just generic Lunar Lights. Okay, Lunar Light players have got better. Compared to my last video where I was talking about Altergeist versus Lunar Lights. Basically, this thing, they've become a lot better at actually banishing this and then making it that we can't activate in the battle phase. And we kind of just need to activate things in the battle phase to survive against, crap, what's the name? Leo Dancer? Like, they're really big one. The one that can attack twice and destroys all of our special summon monsters every time it attacks, and it's just huge and it can't be targeted or destroyed. That thing, we use our battle phase to survive it. We use, we use their battle phase, I suppose, because we use Conquerry, Silkwardus to return Conquerry, summon Conquerry again, or we set up the 5th lag lock. Setting up the 5th lag lock before the battle phase can be really risky. It makes it vulnerable because they're still in the main phase. They can do something about it. They have a rank 4 that negates everything that's not a Beast Warrior, which includes our 5th legs. So the matchup has got harder. This is the first time I've ever tried to interrupt them until they've got to, like before they've got to their end board. Normally with Altergeists, I like to wait until my opponent's end board and wait till the battle phase, and wait as long as I can before I start making my plays, make my one bounce really important, because Lunar Lights don't have a proper choke point. I know that this isn't going to choke them out of making an end board. I'm hoping that this is going to stop them being able to banish Kaleido Chick. That's my logic. I don't know if it works or not, but it's, I don't know if I don't try. So they're doing normal Lunar Light things. This is the guy who can negate everything that's not a Beast Warrior. It looks like they don't have access to Wolf, which is the thing that would let them banish Kaleido Chick to fusion summon or something. So I didn't need to worry. If they did have access to Wolf, maybe my bounce wouldn't have done anything anyway. So their end board was not very impressive. I don't know if that was a skill issue on their part. I'm terrible at Lunar Lights, so I couldn't tell you if they did actually have access to a really powerful end board. I don't know if my bounce actually did prevent them from it, but it worked out that game, and I need more data basically. In the future I'll just try bouncing Kaleido Chick every time that they would normal summon it, and I'll just keep track of how many times that actually prevents my opponent from setting up something crazy. I think this is Shadol's. Yeah, huge deck. Yeah, Shadow Weaving Power. Definitely Shadol's. So, how does Shadol's match up against Altergeists? Shadol's, everyone is really worried about Shadol's, and for good reason, because Window is just such an insane card. What's actually happened is Shadol's has ended up as an inconsistent deck that randomly ruins your day. Like it can randomly be really good and super oppressive, and there's not really anything you can do about it. Most of the time though, they're a very beatable control deck, and so it's kind of like when you go into it, you're favored, but when you lose, you will be destroyed, and it will look like such an impossible matchup. And that's been my experience against Shadol's. Most of the time it's an easy win, sometimes you just get completely rolled. And it's just down to the fact it's an inconsistent deck. So they go first, and they have Winder. So just in case anybody's not familiar with Winder, I'll go over it quickly here. This is the centralizing piece of the Shadol deck and why people are afraid of it. So it's a fusion monster, it's easy to summon, just needs a Shadol and a dark monster. And must first be fusion summoned. Cannot be destroyed by an opponent's card effects. Luckily does affect does. Each player can only special summon monsters once per turn while this card is face up on the field. It's a floodgate. And also, if it's sent to the graveyard, they can target a Shaddoll spell trap in the graveyard added to their hand. So we have easy outs to window with something like Meluseek. But because it's my first turn, I don't want to hit someone with Meluseek. I want to get my combo going. But of course, what makes this tricky is my combo doesn't work if Wind is in play. Because I'll normal summon Meluseek, special summon Linkuriboh, find Multifaker, and then in their turn, I activate Manifestation, special summon Meluseek, and now I can't special summon Multifaker because Wind is in play.
I draw Altergeist, still with it. I'll play this. I'll create a circuit. I set a card. I'll end my turn.
So, what I've done here is I've basically set a compulsory evacuation device. By normal summoning Silquidus, sending it to the graveyard by linking it away, and then setting Manifestation, I can revive Silk with Manifestation, and then bounce the Manifestation and something else. I've decided that was the best play I could make in the face of a window. And then I don't even go for it.
Look at all those flashes. Altergeist, Marionetter. I'll set a card. I'll set a card. Altergeist, Marionette. Be careful.
So, the way Shaddolls work is they have flip effects, and they have, if they're sent to the graveyard by a card effect, text. So if you're not flipping them, and you can destroy them by battle without them floating. I'm talking about the main deck monsters. The fusion monsters are a bit different.
I activate my trap. Altergeist. I activate Altergeist Silkwood. I activate my trap. Altergeist Camo. I activated a trap called Altergeist Multi, the tuner monster.
Ah, right. Okay. So, yeah. What? They were. The reason I didn't go for it, it's just all come together in my brain now. It's a bit slow. Is they targeted my manifestation. I'm talking about last, the turn where I only had this in play. They targeted my manifestation, so I activated manifestation to revive Silquidus. They wouldn't do anything, because it would be back in my hand before Silquidus could bounce it. Yeah. The reason I went for this, so I had to activate the camouflage after I was able to bounce the window with Silquidus, which means I wasn't allowed to act because it was my only chainable trap where I would still then be able to summon Multifaker and get something summoned. I wasn't able to put camouflage on the Fifth Lag, but I still needed to summon the Fifth Lag because I'm on such low life points. If this attacked my attack position Silquidus, I would just lose. So I need to summon a monster they're forced to attack. Anyway, we just get to our grind game now. We get our Hextia. And notice I'm being much more aggressive with my transitioning into different phases now. I don't even have my Conquery access yet. There it is. But I've already got 2 Hexties on board. And I've also just won. And that's kind of been my experience against Shaddolls in general, is they have like a really powerful play, usually in the form of a floodgate, and then nothing, but sometimes they get access to their really powerful traps.
You're not as a hacker.
Of course.
Duel.
I set a monster. I'll give it.
Notice how consistent this deck has been in all these games. Again, I've just hard drawn Meluseek Manifestation, but thanks to 1-for-1, thanks to Personal Spoofing, we've just always had Multifaker access. There are 8 cards in a 20 card deck now which get you Multifaker access. We've got 3 Meluseeks, 2 Multifaker, that's 5, 2 Personal Spoofings, that's 7, and then 1-for-1, which is the 8th one. And all you need is some trap to pair with that. If your Multifaker access is Personal Spoofing, which is 2 of the 8, those are already traps. So the deck has just become a lot more consistent.
Here I go. I Altergeist
If this is my last Yeah, he just disconnected if I remember. I just put it in this for the sake of completeness. That was my last rank up match. And I've saved 2 COG games as well. Since we're here, let's just go through those. I can't remember what these are. It would be from me to go through later, because there'll be something interesting to learn from, I think. This must be straight after my COG rank up.
Can't wait to
I look forward to testing.
I mean, see, we've got
Duel.
multi-figure access.
my
Yeah.
Silkwood is.
Oh, this is Constellars? No, Infinitrax. Okay. No, Machinas. Earth Machine. This is a deck I'm so confused about playing against. I can't remember why I saved this. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know why why I saved this. I'll just let it run through just for people who would like to see the conclusion of it, but I have nothing of value to add, I'm sorry. I could have revived, I remember regretting this in the game, I could have revived something here to negate the second spell. I just didn't know that they'd have a second spell. I'm not familiar with the deck. I wanted to save my interaction for as late as possible. Speaking of saving interaction to as late as possible, before I finish this video, I want to have a quick word about how to learn and what to do when you're not sure what your opponent is trying to do. You basically just go with your own game plan. If you are worried that your opponent has some big trick that they're going to blow you out with, but you're not sure what it is, just let them do it. And the reason for that is if you let them do it, you find out what it is. Sure, you might lose the game that you're in, but what are the stakes? They're so low. They're basically nothing. You lose a ladder match, but what have you gained? You've gained the knowledge of how to play against that deck, or one piece of the puzzle of how to play against that deck for all of your future matches. And this is why Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially Duel Links in speed duel format with a timer, is not actually a reading game. I love the memes. Everybody loves the memes about Yu-Gi-Oh! Players can't read, and I'm guilty of it too. Everyone's guilty of it, but it's not actually about reading. It's about getting familiar with the card effects so that you get a game sense. You have an instinct built from experience. So then when you play against these cards, you automatically know what to do, and you have to spend 2 to 5 seconds maximum thinking about what to do. If you try to read through all of your opponent's cards, like, look at this, look at all this text, right? Machina Fortress, Machina Citadel. What you should do instead, if you see a card you're not familiar, skim it, look for quick effect, and then see what it can do as a quick effect. Maybe also look for graveyard to see if there's a graveyard effect. Yep, while this card is in your graveyard, okay, it can do something in the graveyard. Make a mental note. And try and do the reading while your opponent is making plays, so it's not wasting your timer. And then, okay, you'll have some kind of mental model about what the board state is. Oh, okay, if I destroy this, then they've got this thing in the graveyard that can activate. And inevitably, you're going to not be able to retain all of the information about what your opponent's deck can do. And that's okay, because as soon as you run into the big haha trap moment, they've got you. You destroy their thing, which triggers 5 effects in the graveyard, and now they summon a ridiculous board. Now that's such a vivid experience that you remember it. I had an example in one of my older videos where I bounced the completely wrong thing with Silkwood. I bounced their monster, which gives them a powerful effect on normal summon. And they'd already normal summoned, so I thought this was a perfectly reasonable thing to bounce. What I failed to consider is right next to that thing in their monster zone, they had a monster which gave them an additional normal summon. And that's purely because I couldn't comprehend the full mental model of what my opponent's board was capable of. But now, when I see that card in the future, I'll always remember this gives an extra normal summon. It is not correct to bounce something which gives them an effect on normal summon. Yeah, just wanted to get that out there. Anyway, that's my little update on where I'm at with Altergeist at the moment. I still think they're powerful. Oh, I never fought a Tenyi deck. I want to talk about playing against Tenyis because there's a Tenyi place I've got better. Who is my Tenyi? Who's my Tenyi pilot? I can't remember. It might have been Pegasus. Oh, it was Pegasus, yeah. There we go. Clearly an old list, running through these. This was I was just trying out one that ran Comic Hand. So here we go. This is the main threat against Altergeists. If a Tenyi player is going second, they always like to bounce something with the Fishuda and make this and then tuck two things into the deck. But as an Altergeist player, we don't care about that. Usually by the time they've expended their resources to make this thing, you can just chain the traps that they're targeting. Then you summon your Multifaker, you summon your Silquidus, you bounce this back to their hand, and then they don't have enough to kill you, and they've gone through a lot of their names. They're resource light by this point. And so you're completely fine. However, if they make this, you're screwed, because if you activate Multifaker, they can chain Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, which will banish the Multifaker from your hand, and now the Multifaker can't special summon itself. And so, when your opponent has a level 7 and a level 1, normally how they're making a level 8 synchro, so they have the level 1 tuner and level 7, one of these two. You don't want to let them get to this, but if you disrespect your opponent enough, which is what I have always done, then you can just let them synchro summon, they will make this, and then you win the game off of blowing them out, because your combo coming up after this means that you win the game. For the first time ever, I went against a Tenyi player who actually made Draco Berserker of the Tenyi when they were going second, and what you do against it, it's tricky, it's possible to beat it, but it is tricky. One possible way to beat it is with generic traps that I don't play. Or generic spell traps like Book of Moon, Effect Veiler, I guess, if you're doing it in their main phase. Paleozoic Canadia to turn it face down. Dynamiscus to banish it, for example. So that's one way, but that's not reliable, of course. What's the other way? Basically, you need to have a monster effect that threatens them before you activate Multifaker's effect. And as Altergeist players, we have two options for this. Two options to bait out Draco Berserker's effect. Let me get to my Altergeist lists. Here we go. So most commonly, the way I do it is with Conquerry. So if I get to a position where I have Conquerry and Multifaker in my hand, it's really tenuous, because you need to have a trap that you're able to activate in their battle phase, which might not be possible if you open kind of weakly, if you only have one face down trap, and they manage to Fishuda it beforehand. Pardon me. Then you're not going to have a trap by then. But then you would have already chained your trap, got your Multifaker off, and then you're kind of just weak to Dark Hole, those kinds of effects. But the idea is, they attack, you activate Conquerry, they banish Conquerry with the Synchro monster, and now you can activate your trap, activate Multifaker, and you're off to the races. However, it's really unfortunate because you no longer have Conquerry in your back pocket, it's banished, it's gone for the entire game, and you have to navigate a board state where you can't just stall them out forever. So there's a game on your hands. It's not that you've automatically won, but you also haven't automatically lost. The other way to do it is with Silquidus. If you've already got a Silquidus in play, you're able to use it, then you can bounce something. You bounce the Tenyi Berserker, the Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, and then they're forced to, I mean, use it or lose it. They have to use the effect now, and it'll just banish your Silquidus, and you've got 2, so you don't mind so much. And then you can start summoning. You can just summon out the other one if it's not going to die with a Multifaker. You're probably finding Meluseeker though at that point. Oh, by the way, if they don't go for the bait, if they don't banish your Conqueror when you activate it from their hand, then you get to summon it, and then you just target the Draco Berserker of the Tenyi to negate its effects, and then they just have to banish it at that point anyway. So either way, Conqueror is gonna let your Multifaker go through. So that's the main way I get through Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. You don't always have a combination of cards that lets you do that, but that's what you should keep in mind, is what your goal is to try and get through Draco Berserker of the Tenyi when it does come up. And you actually remove it, like you remove it with Meluseek, because Draco Berserker of the Tenyi can't chain to Meluseek. I should clarify, it can't chain to the removal effect of Meluseek because it happens in the damage step. And Draco Berserker of the Tenyi is not a non-effect monster. It's not a non-effect monster, so none of their Tenyi protection spells work against it. Yeah, alright. So just a little bit of Tenyi there. I think that might have been one of the 5 COG rank up matches that I accidentally deleted. Alright, well, Happy New Year everybody. Hope you're still enjoying playing Altergeist. I know I sure am. Looking forward to Ghost Gal's rerun event. I'm sure we'll get some nice toys to work with there. Maybe a Pukrari, who knows. And yeah, with that, I hope you have a good year. Thanks for watching.